Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. God is everywhere. And as humans, we need to understand that concept, and we need to have some inclination of how that works, how that is. God is this great power that extends everywhere. Imagine the power of the current that runs through electric wires, that lights street lamps, that lights light bulbs, that lights all kinds of lights. It's all one power. It ends up in a lot of places. And whenever the light ends up, the light is the same. It illuminates what's going on. However, the switch has to be turned on for that light to come. And we are attached to that power that is God. But we also need to know how to turn on the switch that allows that power to come through us, that allows that power to radiate from us, to allow that light to come out of us. And the methodology for doing that, the switch that actually turns on and allows that power to come through, is understanding the qualities of God and bringing them into action in your being. This is a subtle understanding. It's an understanding that comes over time and becomes more and more intense as we develop God's qualities. Water, for instance, when it's still, allows whoever comes to bathe in it and to release themselves of the dirt that has accumulated. And the water takes on the dirt. It doesn't judge the entity that comes into the water. It doesn't judge its nature. It just cleans it. Like that, when we get to the point where we have absorbed Allah's qualities, we go through a change. We no longer need to find fault in people. We no longer need to criticize people. We no longer judge people. We no longer make determinations as to their worth or non-worth. Our being changes, and we become a light unto the world. We become one who does God's duty in this world. And if you are at the point where you are doing God's duty in this world, because you have become God-like in your qualities, then you become an assist to humanity. You are able to bring his light to other people. Now, to learn God's qualities, to learn wisdom, to understand truth, you can't find it in books, and you're not going to learn it in books. You're going to learn it through association with people who've acquired these qualities and with whom you can see these qualities in action. So these qualities are acquired through nearness. These qualities are passed on through nearness. These qualities are brought into being from one person to another by people who have these qualities. And what Allah does for those who have these qualities is give them the capacity to pass these qualities onto others. And that way, one by one by one, these qualities are passed throughout the world. Of course, it takes an intention to find somebody who has these qualities. In other words, people have to come to the point where they realize they need a teacher. People have to come to the point where they realize that they don't know everything and there's a lot to learn. There is an ocean of ilm, wisdom, that's out there, and there's so much to learn. But some people drown in a drop of water. They assume because they've gotten a drop that they know everything. And these people doom themselves. These people bring about their own demise through their arrogance as to what they think they know. God's glory is so great, and his wisdom is so monumental, so beyond description, so beyond limitations, that for us to believe that we know everything is a supreme arrogance. So what man has to do before he can truly go on this path is become an abd. Abd means slave. We must become slaves of God. We have to understand that we are slaves of God. We exist because of his mercy. We exist because of his love. And his love is different than human love. His love sustains, maintains, nourishes beings. He created us out of love so that we could experience his qualities. Now imagine God in his mercy and in his unconditional love is sharing with man the ability to integrate into his being the qualities that are divine. So man can experience mercy. Man can experience justice. Man can experience truth. And as man experiences these things, his nature changes. And God has given us gifts to help change this nature. Water will cleanse us on the outside, but there is more to us than the outside. There is the kingdom of the world and the kingdom of God. And man is attached to the kingdom of the world. And the kingdom of the world is the kingdom of illusion. And within man, there is this constant battle going on. The battle between illusion and the battle with reality, the battle between believing in truth and believing in illusion. And because of that, we need to be internally cleansed, because our connection to Allah is internal. And how do we cleanse our insides? How do we cleanse our jealousy? How do we cleanse our hastiness? How do we cleanse our arrogance? How do we cleanse all of the inappropriate qualities that we have that are inside of us? Water will not wash them away. So we need something that can cleanse them. And Allah gave us the Kalima to cleanse them. And what is the Kalima? The Kalima is the understanding of La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. And what does that mean? It means there is no God but God. It also means nothing exists but God. And the ultimate conclusion of this understanding is, since nothing exists but God, I do not exist. And for us to become ego-free, for us to become without an egocentric desire to control and to be in charge of things and to become that slave of God, we have to learn to give up that will to resist. We also have to learn to give up that will to exist. We have to become accepting of the fact that we need to disappear in truth. So we have to learn the lessons of reality. We have to know the difference between right and wrong. We have to know the difference between good and evil. We have to know the difference between permissible and not permissible. We have to understand the nature of Allah's qualities and Allah's actions. We have to understand love. We have to understand the fact that we can love without differences. The world, this illusory world, is based on differences. We have different languages. We have different colors. We have different nationalities. We have different religions. And each of them have an arrogance that's inherent within them. And this arrogance says, I am better than you. My color is better than your color. My religion is better than your religion. My caste is better than your caste. My nationality is stronger and better than your nationality. We have lost the understanding that all men are the children of one mother and father, that all men are one united family, that all men have a relationship to each other, that all men have a unity amongst themselves and belong to one. There is one God and there is one mankind, but mankind has splintered and he's lost that sense of unity. So in order to return that sense of unity, Allah has given us the Kalima, the understanding that nothing exists but God. So if we truly understand that nothing exists but God, we begin to understand that differences don't exist. Nationalities don't exist. Different religions don't exist. There is only the God. There is only the unity within that God. And The parts of us that can't accept that have to be erased from us. And it is when we erase these things that we become real. There's a word in Arabic, and it's one of the names of God. It's Hak. Hak means reality, and reality is the opposite of illusion. So we need to go from this illusory world and from belief in this illusory world to belief in Hak, to belief in reality. And how do we believe in reality? We believe in reality by understanding God's qualities and actually incorporating those qualities into our being. Now, we can recite God's names, but if we only recite God's names, they are merely nouns. If we incorporate them into our being and we act on those names and we act with those names, then they are verbs. They come into action. So we need to take the names of Allah, put them inside of ourselves, and bring them into action. And that's when the qualities become real. That's when reality begins to show itself to us, and we begin to understand it. Unless love is put into action, it has no meaning. People write love songs, people write love poetry, people do all kinds of definitions and explanations of love. But do men actually love? Do women actually love? Is love an action that is incorporated into their being and is brought out in their interactions with other people? Or do we sit back and look at others as separate from us? True love is being able to integrate others as ourselves. True love is at the crux of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would do unto yourself. Don't see a difference between yourself and others. That's when love becomes real. God created man because he wanted them to understand love, and he loved his creation. He loved his creation so much that he shared himself with his creation. He gave unto each and every one of his creation a ray from himself. So man is in two parts. Man is of the elements and has an elemental self, and this is the body. And this body perishes. But there's also another part to man, and that is the ray that Allah placed within us. And that's the true man. And that goes on. The prophet came, and some said the prophet was the son of Abdullah, and they saw him as a man. But the prophet had two parts to him. There was the outer Muhammad and the inner Muhammad. And the inner Muhammad was a light. And this light that was and is the inner Muhammad is how the revelation came into being. The revelation didn't come through an elemental body. The revelation came from light to man, to inspire light, to bring about light. And for those who understand that and see the prophet as light, then there was no death to the prophet. The prophet lives on because the light of God lives on. The light of God doesn't perish. The light of God is all encompassing. And we need to understand that, and we have to believe that. And that has to do with establishing faith, certitude, and determination as to the reality of all these things in existence. And if we can do that, then we can begin to understand the truth. Nasruddin was crossing a river in a boat. And as they got into the middle of the river, the waves began to become very strong. And a wind was blowing. And the water was blowing against the boat. And people were terrified that the boat was going to fall apart. And they would all die, drown. Meanwhile, while they're all screaming, God save us, God help us, Nasruddin was in the middle of the boat, sitting very calmly and not expressing any kind of fear or any other emotion. He just sat there. Well, time went by and the water and the wind became calm, and eventually they got to the shore. And the people on the boat with Nasruddin went to him and said, how could you be so calm? We were all afraid for our lives. We were all thought it was over in an instant. And he looked at them and he said, don't you understand that your life is always in jeopardy? That your life can always be lost in an instant? There's no difference between you being in the boat and walking on ground. There's no difference as to where you are. Your situation is the same. As far as your physical body is concerned, we have no control over it, and we have no control when it's taken. This is the ability to see truth, but man doesn't have the ability to see truth. Man believes, for whatever reason, that he is somehow protected. There's a story of a shepherd who had way too many sheep than what he could control. So, from a wise man, he learned how to hypnotize sheep. And he told some of them that they were lions. And he said, there's no need to be afraid, and there's no need to run away. You're a lion. You're very powerful. Nothing can harm you. And some of them he told they were tigers. There's no need to be afraid. You're a tiger. Nothing can harm you. You are most powerful. Some he even convinced they were shepherds. And after he had finished hypnotizing all of them, he began to slaughter them and sell them at market. But the lions and the tigers all thought, he's slaughtering sheep. He's never going to slaughter us. And so they drifted in their delusion, and one by one, he took them all. But they didn't see it coming. They didn't understand the truth because they were hypnotized into an illusion of existence. Man is hypnotized by illusion. Man is incapable of understanding his own demise. Man is incapable of understanding that in truth, he is not a body with a soul, but a soul with a body. and they are two separate entities, and one is doomed from the outset, and the other has the opportunity to go to judgment and enter into reality, enter into God's kingdom of light. Man needs to understand that. But man is so enthralled with the world that he can't get enough of it. And this is one of the unfortunate tendencies that man has. Desire is not capable of being satiated. Desire always wants more. So if man is in a state where he desires the world, he can't find peace. Why can't he find peace? Because he can never have enough of whatever it is that he wants. Desire can't be satiated. And what's the cure for this? The cure is the Kalima. Allah is a completion. Allah is totally at peace and satisfied within his rahmat, within his within his mercy and his glory. Man needs to enter into that state of purification where he is satisfied. And the only way man can do this is through the recitation and the understanding of the Kalima. If we truly understand that only God exists and we don't exist separate from God, then what are all these games we are playing? What are all these illusions that we carry? What is all this stuff that we accumulate? All of it is subject to destruction. All of it is subject to disappearing. Yet we treat it as if it has sustainable life. Just as we don't have in this body sustainable life, none of the things that we accumulate have sustainable life. And when we can begin to understand that, then we cross over into reality. We cross over into the truth. We cross over into understanding who we truly are. So, unless we can take on truth, we will be subject to the lies and the hypnotisms of Satan. We'll be subject to the inappropriate behavior that comes with trying to satisfy our need to conquer and collect the world. If we are trying to mold the elements to fit our needs, we are working at a hopeless endeavor. If we are trying to mold the world to fit our needs, we are working at a hopeless endeavor. And we will continue this hopeless endeavor until we die from exhaustion of trying to accomplish that. So somewhere, somehow, we have to get hold of ourselves and understand the truth of this existence. We came to this world to understand truth. And what is truth? God's qualities are truth. So if our purpose here is other than to understand God's qualities and come to know God's qualities, we are missing the point of our existence. We are missing the point of why we came here. We are missing the point of the creation. There was a fish who kept running around asking, what's water? Where is water? And there's a Nasruddin story that's akin to that. The entire village where he lived was preparing to go on a religious pilgrimage because they wanted to come in contact with God. Nasruddin didn't go. He didn't prepare. He just went about doing everything that he was doing. They were on their trek on this religious pilgrimage, and they saw Nasruddin riding his donkey at a very, very fast pace towards them, screaming, I've lost my donkey, where is he? I've lost my donkey, where is he? And the people looked at him, and they said, your donkey is right with you. And then he looked at them and he said, well, why are you going to look for God? Isn't he right with you? Isn't he everywhere? And we don't understand it. We don't understand that the entire world is a prayer mat. We don't understand that Allah is everywhere at once. We don't understand that he is always with us. The problem is that we are not with him. And we need to understand what it is that we have to do to be with him. And this is the cleansing purpose of the Kalima. If we can wash away from ourselves everything which isn't holy, everything which isn't divine, then we become the Son of God. We become his representative on earth. We become the ones who bring to the ones who don't know the truth yet, who bring to them the truth, who bring to them the explanations, who bring to them love, who bring to them justice and mercy, who bring to them the true understanding of existence. One by one, man is meant to teach other men. So we go through a process. We go through the process of learning ourselves. And then when we learn, then we can become the ones who bring that learning on to others. And this, we somehow have to understand that we are part of a long chain of learning. And if we've been fortunate enough to meet men who understand truth and who've passed truth on to us, then it is our responsibility to become like those men who passed truth on to us so that we can become like unto our Lord and walk with his qualities. A sheikh had a large group of disciples, and the disciples saw one of them who they all thought was a little less than intelligent, running around the town screaming, I am the sheikh, I am the sheikh, I am the sheikh. And they all went back and reported to the sheikh that so-and-so was telling everybody he was the sheikh. And they wanted to report him so that he would somehow be stopped or be punished. And the sheikh said to them, he's the only one who's doing what is supposed to be done. You're all supposed to be becoming the sheikh, because it's only when you become the sheikh that you can do the work that men were meant to do. So what did our sheikh tell us? Over and over and over, he said, become like me. Become like me, understand who I am, and be like that. And then you can become truth. Then you can become justice. Then you'll know the difference between right and wrong. You'll know the difference between heaven and hell. You'll know the difference between halal and haram. You'll understand everything, and you will be complete inside. you will be without want. Once the qualities of Allah are replete within you, then you have no need of anything. You have no need because you are completeness, because Allah is completeness. So we have to turn away from desire. We have to turn away from our mind. We have to understand that desire and the mind are subject to delusion and illusion, and we have to turn towards haq, towards reality. And in that turning, truth will become our touchstone, and truth will make itself available to us so that we truly understand how things function, so that we truly understand what love is, what mercy is, what compassion is, what justice is, what kindness is, what unity is. And it's in that unity that we become whole. And without that unity, we cannot become whole. If we're not connected to the rest of humanity, there are pieces of us that are missing. If we're not connected to the rest of humanity, we are not complete. And it's only when we understand that connection that unity occurs. And when unity occurs, then we become complete. So we have to give up jealousy. We have to give up prejudice. We have to give up differences. We have to give up my religion and your religion. We have to give up my color and your color. We have to give up my race and your race. We have to give up every single thing that separates us from any other man, because that which separates us from every other man separates us from Allah. So may it come to pass that we understand truth, and we understand reality, and we understand God's qualities, and our hunger changes from a hunger for the world to a hunger for God's qualities. There are so many desires in this world. None of them can be cured except one, and that's the desire to know God. So we should endeavor to find truth. And in that endeavor, may Allah reward us by taking us on the straight path, taking us to truth, and allowing us to come to know Him through knowing His qualities and enter into reality so that we can transcend this life into His kingdom and the eternity that is His kingdom. May it come to be for each and every one of us. May that be our portion. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.